Hello. I'm so sorry I'm late with our Death Binder lesson number 6 episode, but here we are. And I want to give you a hint about today's treat because our each lesson goes learn. I know. It goes we learn and then we do and then we have a treat. So here's a little hint. Want to say hi, Pedro? I've been a little worried about Pedro. He hasn't been eating well. I think we've got things fixed up. We got here. Want that? Yeah, you have fun with that. Okay, so that's just a little hint about what our treat's going to be. All right, so today, if you're looking at the table of contents, today we are talking about monthly expenses. And I have these couple of bullet points, but I went through this section myself for my own Death Binder, and I would like to make some revisions. So, in the next episode of the Death Binder, I wish that the table of contents for monthly expenses had 3 bullets: monthly budget, and then a bullet for non subscription budget info, and a bullet for subscription budget info. Today is a very good example of how the Death Binder is a living document and it keeps evolving. When I first did the Death Binder, there were no or at least I didn't have any subscription things, monthly subscriptions like Netflix or Amazon Prime or that sort of thing. And now so many things are turning to that direction, whether we like it or not. And it's important to keep yourself up to date with what you have and to do a check in on that every now and then to make sure you don't have these subscriptions that are getting out of hand. So I want to break down the monthly budget into these non-subscription and subscription pieces because the subscription part is growing in popularity for today. Okay, so the first part, so as far as the sheets go, we would have our page that talks about subscriptions. So I'm going to cover up my subscriptions, but it would say there's a subscription services, and then we have the monthly budget. And then we have our information about monthly budgets. I personally wish the order started with first monthly budgets. And I'm going to talk about monthly budgets today first. And then can come the subscription services. And then can come I called it information about monthly budget items, but I would like to title it instead non-subscription monthly budget info. So in my mind, just to sort of restate that, I wish it was started with monthly budget for today. And then we would have a non-subscription budget info page that has these sorts of things on it. And then it would have a subscription budget info page. And I had listed it sort of as a list, but I actually would like both of these to be charts like this, tables. I think it's more helpful. So I'm sorry that I've sort of changed my mind on the format, but with redoing this myself, I realized there is a better presentation. So in version 1 of the class, I will improve the presentation. I should say, if you want a Word document that contains the Death Binder skeleton, and I make the changes as I'm thinking of them, as I'm creating these lessons, just let me know, and I will send you a Word document that you can edit and make your own. Okay, first, I'm going to start by talking about the monthly budget. So first of all, let's talk about the word budget. I listen to a lot of finance podcasts, and one of them, which I think is one of my favorite, it really hates the budget. And it's the guy goes on and on about what a horrible word the word budget is. And instead of a budget, you should have what he calls a conscious spending plan. And then he goes on to describe what a conscious spending plan is. And in my head, it's exactly a budget. So, I think when you get the level of wordsmithing things like this, you've just lost the point. The point is, I believe that you should spend less than what you make each month. So if that's my assumption for today is that we want to spend less than what we make. And if you don't agree with that assumption, that would be fine, but I won't be your person to listen to. Okay. Now, this might seem like a bit of a strange thing to have in the death binder. Why do I have to have my monthly budget? And there's really and then information about all the subscriptions and non-subscriptions. And there's really two reasons. First, if you have a partner that you share finances with, like myself and my husband, though he is very capable of doing like paying monthly bills and things like that, usually one person takes on the more secretarial role. And in my family, that's me. So if I'm gone, I want my husband to very quickly have a view at what happens each month. It's not that he doesn't know about any one of these things, but I want him to be able to just see this quickly because I deal with it on a monthly basis. So it's like in my head, but he doesn't deal with it on a monthly basis. He just knows the ideas. And so this would help him deal with it on a monthly basis. And so that is one reason why I want you to have this in your binder. Now, the other reason why I want you to have it in your binder is this section out of all sections is a great example of the death binder being a living document because the information that is in the monthly budget, the subscription and non-subscription services that you have, that information changes so rapidly. Like 3 years ago, I never thought about the phrase subscription service. Okay. And so revisiting this and updating it is very helpful. There have been many times, for example, when someone in my family says, "What's the Netflix password?" And I look in the death binder. I consult the death binder, I would say probably once every other month. I'm not exaggerating there, about once every other month to find out some sort of login information or password for something related to the budget. And so it's very helpful to go through this exercise every year of updating it. Now, if you don't have any of what we're going to do today written down, and if you hate doing things like this is going to feel like a chore. But I think as you work through it, you will see that it is worth having things um, updated and located in one place. And, you know, if you don't go through this sort of information, you can be paying for subscriptions that you have no idea that you're paying for. For example, I noticed a $75 charge for a subscription that I had to track down. And what I realized, and this was just this last week, it was for a teach yourself how to play the guitar service that I got last year. And I didn't know that it was automatically renewing, but it did automatically renew. And if I didn't look at my information, my bank account, I wouldn't have noticed it. It's important to consult things on a regular basis. By the way, please don't ask me if I can play the guitar yet. Okay, I'll just say I stopped that subscription. That's going to be for another year. Okay, about the monthly budget. I could do a deep dive on monthly budgets and have like a 5 lesson class. I love talking about budgets. And here's the thing, everybody has a way that's right for them. And if I try to force any specific structure on any one person, it could just feel like something's like not working. Put shoving a square peg into a round a hole. I have 2 children. I've worked with them each on budgeting, both in completely different techniques. So I knew that the technique that I had shared with my daughter, which is very similar to what I do personally, I knew that would not work for my son. And so I got him going with sort of another way to think about budgeting that is better for just who he is. And so I'll say there's one thing that I think is important for all budgets, and that is this total money in and total money out each month. I like them to be equal. Okay. This is called the zero balance budget. And the idea is you spend every dollar on paper before you spend any dollar. And that way you're spending all of your money on purpose. Because if you don't spend money on purpose, it's going to get spent. But it'll be like, how did that just disappear? How am I making this good money? And I am out of money at the end of the month. And so I like to have a list of what money is coming in. And personally, I do this at the beginning of each month. Before I spend any money, I do this and change the numbers. And this is just a little example. Please don't be upset with me if you don't think it's realistic. It's not meant to be realistic. You are meant to make your own. But you have one column, money in, one column, money out. And so for this budget, for example, the money out, um, I say this person has cash for groceries, household expenses, and family fun. This person uses their debit card for gas. And then we list the monthly expenses that are paid, mortgage, phone, all those things. And then at the end, with the leftover money, it says what to do with it, $120 to savings. This is a very rough budget, but it doesn't have to be complicated. This is just meant to get you started if you want to start thinking about a budget. Okay. Um, and it's possible that you don't want to fill in all the numbers, and it's okay. I actually think that it's very important to have this list of what you're paying for each month so that you know where your money is going. It might take a few months actually of practicing with this to really get it to the point where it's quite functional. Um, but I think it's something to start working with. Now, this tells me where the money is going, but that's not all the information that someone like my husband would need if I wasn't there. It gives him the snapshot, but now we want to zoom in on the details. So, for example, the mortgage is in the previous part of the death binder, so we're going to skip that. US Cellular, so phone. Okay. I had talked about how I have a non-subscription budget info and subscription budget info. That's what I would like to have. And here is my phone. And so for phone, I would write US Cellular. And then I have um, an online account. So I'd write the URL, the username, the password, and then I would say something like paid every month online automatically, auto pay online. Okay. So then the next item is the television. By the way, this is an example of how much I love my family. If I didn't have my family, I think I wouldn't have any of these things. They really bug me. Well, I might have Spotify. Okay. But when you're living with people, you have compromises and you make it work for the whole family. So we do that. Okay, so for the television, we now have YouTube TV. So I would write YouTube TV there. and I would write our information. Okay. Then we have Central Maine Power, the electric. So under electric, and this is again not a subscription, these are just monthly things. Internet, phone, electric, I would write CMP and write the information. Next, we have our giving. So if you have giving, I would write the organization to which you give. And if you do online, you could write the online information. Okay. Then Netflix and Spotify. On the original paper, I had those here, but those are actually subscriptions. So I'm changing that to be on the subscription page. So I have Netflix, Spotify, and again, you would put the information. So I'm really changing the format of what is in the binder, but I think overall it will be helpful. These are the things that can add up without you knowing. So there's something to be very mindful about getting a hold of what you have. So for my family, we have for subscriptions Netflix, Spotify, and then we have a Disney Plus bundle. Okay. And those are our subscriptions. I've had subscriptions to many things and that I've canceled, but I always try to keep a handle on these. And I also, with all of these, regularly meaning maybe once a year, check in with my family. Like we were spending too much on TV. And so I've been asking my husband about it. And this year he said, I think we need to make a change. I will all the time say to my family, do we need Netflix? Okay. The answer probably is yes. Okay. And then I'll ask them, do we need Disney Plus? Okay. So you just check in to make sure that you are using the things that you are paying for. Okay. So let's go to um, the do part of the lesson. So we've learned make a budget, and then for every item on the budget, you want to have some information about how it's paid, and then you want to have the real details on the next pages, the subscription and the non-subscription sheets. Okay, so that's the idea. Now, here is the do part. Because if you, and this is assuming if you're starting from scratch, this can seem like, oh my gosh. Um, and I hope that you use the idea that you need to know that you're spending less than what you make. Like that's important. And it's important to know how much less or how much more, like to get a handle on that. Not knowing is actually worse than having like a bad result sometimes. So if this feels like it's too much because you're like, I just know it's like too much. I spend too much. I don't want to think about it. If you actually make yourself get right down and get a handle on what is happening with your finances every month, it actually can bring some comfort because then at least you know and you can develop a plan. So for the do part of our class, number one, I want you to know what you're spending. So if you have nothing, no form of budget at all right now, here's what I would recommend. Look at 1 month of statements. So that's bank statements, credit card statements, if you have those. Look at 1 month of statements. And anytime you come across a subscription, just jot it. So that Netflix, Hulu, like make a list. Okay. Then if there's non-subscription, so you'd say, oh, electric, TV. And so if you have nothing, you can begin by going through 1 month of statements and just whatever charge you see, write it down. Now, I'm not saying if you see a $12 charge at Walmart that you write that down. That's like household spending or something like that. But I'm talking about those items that happen every month. I want you to get the categories written down so that you know to put them in your budget. So that's number one to get you started is look at what you have spent last month and use that as data to start constructing your budget. Number two, craft a simple monthly budget. And if you've not done this and you're doing it for the first time, you're not going to get it right the first time or the second time. The third time, you'll get closer each month. All right. But it's the willingness to begin, which is important. So get that crafted. Then, number 3, fill out the subscription and non-subscription info. So we've made our new sheets, subscription budget info, non-subscription budget info. Get those filled out. This is an excellent exercise for you who is living so that you can have it as part of your reference materials. And then also, if you should pass, that who you leave behind would know how to cancel things, what to expect. It really will give them help in not having to track things down. Okay. As always, you are welcome to contact me at deathbinder23@gmail.com. I think next Saturday, I'm actually going to be home and being able to record just as normal, which I feel really good about. It's been a little all over the place recently, which I'm happy about, but I'm also happy to get back to some more routine. Okay, the treat. Ooh, it's thundering. The treat. Here's this guy. Hi, Pedro. What do you have? Okay, so the treat this week, and this is for the animal people. And if you don't have any animals, I'll give you a related treat. The treat this week is to buy your animal a treat. Now, if you have 10 animals, don't buy them each a treat, but get your animal a treat because it is so fun to give your animal a toy or something like a bone or something. It's so fun to give them something and watch them enjoy it. And they're expensive, but get your animal a treat. Now, if you don't have any animals, think of a friend or a family member and think of something smallish, like $10 that you could surprise them with as a treat and give them a treat. The idea is to give somebody something small that just brightens their day. And I'm going to start with the animal lovers. Like, get your animal something because that will make you happy to watch them enjoy it. And if you want to do like a double treat, then you could get something for an animal and then something for a friend or family member, surprising them with something small. Isn't it really just like the small things that someone does that makes you feel seen and understood? And they're like, oh, they understand me. That's what we're doing. So today's treat was sort of really tilted towards the animal lovers, but it can be applied by anybody. Okay, thank you, Pedro. All right, so now we're going to say goodbye until next week. And 2 more lessons left. You're getting there. So make some progress this week. I'm excited to hear about your take on this week's lesson. If it's hard or easy, it's all going to feel different for each of you. But everybody can make some good progress that will be very useful for you and for the ones that someday you'll leave behind. Okay, bye-bye.